have a great time. It's a lot of fun.
Hey, that's the thing. You can also, when you come out to a show like CCW, get up close and personal. CCW, Saturday, February 10th, Coral Springs Charter School Gym. Al Snow Seminar, February 9th, Main Event Training Center. 2 opportunities to meet Al. Also, Super Crazy will be on the show, someone you're familiar with, and former WWE diva Caitlyn, who will be wrestling her first match in 4 years. So it's going to be a really exciting show, plus with all the talent CCW brings, Pablo Marquez, Dan Evans running the show. Really good job with them doing that. Al, you've done so much in your career, and I just wanted to know, did you enjoy working behind the scenes? It seems like you enjoy so much being in the ring and doing your thing there. But what was it like for you working behind the scenes?
I enjoy doing all parts and aspects of professional wrestling. It's just, it's such a creative, fast-paced business, or art, I guess you could say, more than a business and a sport, but an art, because you just, you gotta be able to think on your feet, and not just in the ring, but even backstage, and because stuff is happening a mile a minute, and it's all live, and you only get one chance, you only get one opportunity, and you've got to hit a home run or as close to a home run as possible on that one chance, and the pressure is immense. But if you're creative and you've got experience, you get to thrive in that kind of an environment. There's nothing quite like it, and there's nothing quite like the rush that you get from, being a part of it, either in the, especially out in front of the audience, but even backstage and watching, what you've helped put together, coalesce and create that emotional connection and that reaction out of the audience that you've wanted it to do.
And Al, those fans, even though I know you mentioned about even going back if you want to compare it to 1972, but there were a lot of fans in 72 who did believe. And I also think fake is not a good word to use. Because listen, predetermined results, okay, but come on, all the injuries you guys have suffered during the years in the wrestling ring, right? It's really, I don't know why that word or at least now maybe it's not as much, but bandied about. But it just seemed like back then, right? There were a lot of fans that did believe when two guys hated each other.
No. Listen, I'm 54, okay? And when I proclaimed that I wanted to be a professional wrestler in 1976, I was 12, I believe. And I love my family dearly. Don't misunderstand, but none of them are mentor candidates. Nobody was a professional wrestler they were all blue-collar workers and very hard-working, good people. What do you think my family, even my grandmother on both sides of my family, had to say when I proclaimed that the career I wanted to pursue was to be a professional wrestler? Why do you want to do that? It's fake. Now, Jim, question. How would they know that?
They don't go to the shows, Al. Maybe they've seen it on TV and they didn't believe. And I hear what you're saying, because you're right. There were a lot of people. I'm dating myself. Yeah, that was my era when I was young. So I'm watching Championship Wrestling from Florida with Gordon Soley doing the commentary, and you had Eddie Graham running the shows and Dusty Rhodes doing his thing. And it was like, I remember though going to shows, and there was a faction of those fans at those shows who were like, they wanted to fight that wrestler afterwards. They were throwing bottles at them and just things like that, where I was like, at least we've evolved from that stage where people aren't, for the most part, throwing bottles at the wrestlers, superstars, sports entertainers, whatever you want to call them nowadays. But you're right, there were a lot of people that would just look at it and say, what? No, that's not really a sport win-loss determination.
But you could still elicit that kind of emotional response if you wanted to, because you have to remember the key factor in all of this is that when an audience buys a ticket, they're buying it hoping that you will allow them a way, an avenue to that belief, to to where they get so emotionally caught up that they take some kind of physical action. Whether it's when the good guy wins and they stand up and cheer or want to carry him out on their shoulders, or to the point to where they want to throw beer bottles at the bad guy for winning. You know, they want that. That's why they're going, is because they want you to convince them that it is, to some degree or another, an actual competitive situation. And, you know, it's no different than people who watch soap operas and they get so caught up in the soap opera that when they see the actor or actress on the streets, if they played a villain, they kind of, you know, they're nasty to them because, you know, they're buying into the character that they played on TV. Now, we all know soap operas aren't real, but there are numerous stories of people to this day who still react that way because they get caught up in what's taking place. Or, you know, you pay your money to go see a movie. I hope that there are people out there that know that, you know, movies aren't all documentaries like Spider-Man, you know, made how many, you know, millions of dollars all over the world, but you don't believe that it's a documentary about a young man who can shoot webs out of his wrist. You know, you're able to get caught up in that world. The difference with wrestling is that, you know, that world never stops. It never ceases. It has to be sold 24 hours a day. And that's where social media and the internet can be a boon to it. And if the performer allows it and is comfortable with doing so, and it can also be a handicap in the sense that it allows, one, access to information, which now makes an audience much more familiar with something, which familiarity breeds contempt, makes them very contemptuous of the very thing they love, because now they feel, because of their access to information, that they know as much or more than the actual performers who have the experience. And I always tell people that you don't have real knowledge just because you have information. You can have access to all the information you could possibly want on a topic. That does not make you knowledgeable about the topic. What requires real knowledge is information with a commensurate amount of experience together. That's what makes knowledge. And to prove that point, you want to be a doctor. In order to be a licensed physician, you've got to go to a medical school for anywhere from 4 to 8 years, depending on your specialization. And then, in order to get a license to practice medicine, you've got to have supervised medical experience for 3 to 7 additional years before you get that license to be a doctor. So you can have all the information you want, 8 years of information, and you don't become a licensed physician until you do another 3 to 7 years of acquiring experience to go along with that information.
There's nothing like doing a job. You have to get experience to do that job no matter what profession you're going into. That is so true. Al, you're going to be in Coral Springs, Florida, South Florida, Coral Springs Charter School, CCW, February 10th.